Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive. Today, feels a little different.
It does.
Usually we sit here, we have a stack of articles, maybe a new book, and we talk about the world. We'll talk about tech or history or psychology.
Yeah, the external stuff.
But today we are sort of turning the camera around. We're looking in the mirror.
It's a bit meta, isn't it?
It's extremely meta because we're going to try to kill two birds with one stone.
Classic idiom right off the bat. Killing two birds with one stone.
Yes.
Solving two problems with one single action.
Exactly. Or in this case, enjoying a deep conversation while actively training a skill. Because if you're listening to this, there's a 99% chance you're on a journey right now. Maybe you're in your car, maybe you're washing the dishes, maybe you're at the gym. But your ears are open because you are trying to master the English language.
And that is the topic of the day. We aren't just speaking English. We're doing a deep dive into the science, the struggle, and the strategy of learning a language. We've pulled together some fascinating research on, neuroplasticity, memory, the psychology of fear, all to figure out why this is so hard and, more importantly, how to make it easier.
And I have to be honest with you, right from the start, I need this deep dive just as much as you do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've tried to learn languages before, and it usually, it ends in disaster. I get all excited, I buy the books, and then 3 months later, I'm just crying over a conjugation table.
You were definitely not alone in that.
Yeah.
The data we've seen shows that most adults who start learning a second language, they give up within the first 6 months.
Wow.
It's a massive drop-off.
So that's the mission today. We want to figure out how to be in that small percentage of people who don't quit.
Right.
We're going to look at the mental blocks, the myths about talent, which I have a lot of questions about, and the actual mechanics of how the brain, absorbs new sounds.
And we're going to do it all in clear, natural English, so this session itself is actually part of your training.
Perfect. So let's start with the feelings, not the grammar, not the rules, but the emotion.
Okay.
Because when I decide, okay, 2026 is the year I learn Spanish or whatever it is, I feel great. I feel like Superman. I picture myself in a cafe in Barcelona, laughing, ordering tapas, looking all sophisticated.
The visualization phase is very powerful. Dopamine is flowing.
Right. But day one happens. I open the app or I open the textbook, and suddenly that dream of the cafe in Barcelona feels like it's a million miles away. I see a rule about subject-verb agreement, and I just feel small. I feel intimidated.
That shift from excitement to intimidation is very, very real, and there's a psychological reason for it.
What is it?
When you visualize the result, you're focusing on the identity change. I will be a bilingual person. That feels good.
Yeah.
But when you start studying, you're confronted with the gap.
The gap.
The gap between who you are now and who you want to be. And that gap, well, it looks terrifyingly wide.
So it's the mountain, right? You're just standing at the bottom looking all the way up.
Exactly. And looking at the research we have here on adult learning, there's a specific set of fears that kicks in. It isn't just, oh, this is hard. It's, I am going to look stupid.
Oh, that is the big one, 100%. The fear of sounding like an idiot.
Yes. Because adults are used to being competent. You're good at your job. You're good at driving your car. You can articulate complex thoughts in your native language. Suddenly, you're stripped of all that.
Yeah.
You are reduced to the communication level of a 2-year-old. And that is a massive blow to the ego.
It really is. I remember trying to speak French to a waiter once, and I panicked. I just wanted a simple coffee.
Yeah.
But I was so terrified of using the wrong gender for the word cup that I just froze and I pointed. I felt like a child.
And that feeling leads us directly to the first major myth we need to bust today, the talent myth.
Okay.
Because after that waiter incident, what did you tell yourself?
I probably told myself, I'm just not good at languages. That's my go-to.
Right. Or I don't have the ear for it. My brain just doesn't work that way. We hear this constantly.
Yeah.
People look at a polyglot, someone who speaks, 5 or 6 languages, and they think, well, they must have a different brain structure than I do. They have the language gene.
But are you telling me that isn't true? Because it really, really feels true. Some people just seem to soak it up like a sponge, while I'm over here scrubbing my brain trying to get one word to stick.
It feels true, but the science suggests otherwise. Now, look, are there some people with a slight natural aptitude for mimicking sounds? Sure.
Okay.
Just like some people are naturally a bit more flexible in yoga.
Yeah.
But the research on neuroplasticity, that's the brain's ability to rewire itself, it shows that every healthy human brain is designed to learn language.
Every brain?
Every brain. If you learned your first language, The hardware is there. The wiring is in place.
So if the hardware is there, why is it so much harder now than when I was, a toddler?
That is the million-dollar question. It's often called the critical period hypothesis, this idea that after puberty, the door to language learning sort of closes.
Right.
But modern linguists are pushing back on that. It's not that the door closes, it's that the method changes.
Yeah.
Kids learn through immersion and necessity, and they have zero fear of social judgment. Adults learn through analysis, but we are paralyzed by that fear we just talked about.
So it's not that I can't learn, it's that I'm getting in my own way.
Precisely. It is about exposure and time on task, not magic. If you spent the same amount of hours immersed in English as a baby spends immersed in their native tongue, you'd learn it too.
Sure.
The problem is you have a job. You have a life. You aren't getting that constant 204/7 exposure.
Okay, so let's assume I believe you. I'm on board. I have the brain for it. I get through the first week, maybe two. But then we hit what I call the crash.
The crash.
The honeymoon is over. The app stops being fun. The notifications start annoying me. Why does motivation fall off a cliff after 3 weeks?
This is a famous phenomenon in learning theory. It's often called the dip.
The dip.
In the beginning, the gains are easy. They're obvious. You learn, hello, thank you, where's the bathroom?
Right. Practical stuff.
You can use those immediately. You feel like you're making rapid progress.
Look at me. I'm basically fluent.
Right. But then you hit the intermediate plateau. The grammar gets complex. The vocabulary becomes abstract. You study for an hour, but you don't feel any different. The feedback loop breaks. You aren't getting those instant wins anymore.
And that's when the negative self-talk starts. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm wasting my time.
But here's the nugget we found in the psychology of learning that I want you, our listeners, to really hear.
Okay.
That confusion, that feeling of, I don't understand this. That is not failure. That is the feeling of neuroplasticity happening.
Wait, explain that. So feeling stupid is actually my brain working.
Yes. Think about it like going to the gym. If you lift a weight that's too light, it's easy, sure, but your muscles don't grow. You need resistance. You need to feel that burn.
The burn.
The mental fog or confusion you feel when listening to English is the cognitive equivalent of muscle burn. It means your brain is struggling to build new neural pathways. If it feels easy, you probably aren't learning very much.
That is a huge reframe. That changes everything.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening to a podcast and I'm frustrated because I only understand half of it, I shouldn't turn it off.
No, that is the most critical moment. You have to stay in the discomfort. That is where the growth is.
I like that. Stay in the discomfort. Okay, but part of that discomfort comes from this obsession with doing it right. I feel like school ruined us for language learning. In school, if you made a mistake on a test, you got a big red mark. It was bad.
It was a failure.
Yeah.
Exactly. School often treats language like history or math. It treats it as a set of facts to be memorized and tested.
Yeah.
But language isn't a subject to be studied. It's a skill to be practiced.
Yeah.
It's much more like learning to play basketball or learning to dance.
True.
You don't learn to dribble a ball by reading a physics book about gravity and momentum. You learn by dribbling and losing the ball and chasing it down the court.
And yet we treat grammar books like Bibles. We think, I must memorize the rules of the past, perfect continuous, before I even open my mouth.
We call this the grammar trap.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, grammar is useful. It gives you a structure, a skeleton for the language.
Sure.
But many adult learners prioritize accuracy over fluency. They want to be perfect before they are even functional.
I see this in myself all the time. I'll construct the whole sentence in my head, I check it for errors, I double-check the verb, and by the time I'm ready to say it,
The conversation has moved on.
the conversation is over. Someone else is talking.
That is the monitor hypothesis in action. You have an editor in your brain that is way too aggressive. It censors you before you can even speak.
Yeah.
We need to fire the editor. Or at least tell him to go on a long lunch break.
Put the editor on a permanent vacation. I like that. So you brought up babies earlier, and I always hear this advice, learn like a baby. But honestly, I hate that advice.
Okay, why?
I'm not a baby. I have a mortgage. I have responsibilities. I can't just sit around babbling all day and have someone bring me food.
That is a fair critique. It's true. You cannot replicate the baby's lifestyle,
No.
but you can replicate the baby's attitude.
What do you mean by attitude? Not crying all the time.
Well, that too. But think about a baby learning to walk. They stand up, they wobble, and they fall down hard.
Right.
Does the baby think, wow, I am so embarrassed. My friends saw that. I'm never trying that again. I am just not a walker.
No, they just get up and try again. They have no shame.
Exactly. They have no concept of failure as a reflection of their personal worth. And when they start talking, they say, Baba for bottle.
Uh-huh.
Does the mother say, excuse me, that's incorrect. The bilabial plosive needs to be, no. The mother gets excited. Yes, bottle. You want the bottle.
So the goal is just communication, not perfect.
Bingo. The baby realizes that making a sound gets a result. That's the dopamine hit. As adults, we need to seek that same reward. Did you get your point across? Did the person understand more or less what you meant?
Yeah.
Then you won, even if your grammar was terrible.
So we need to lower the bar for what we call success. Success isn't speaking like a native. Success is simply being understood.
That is the only goal that matters in the beginning. Fluency and accuracy will come later, with practice.
Okay, I'm buying into the philosophy. Be brave, accept the confusion, fire the editor. But let's get practical.
Let's.
Because my other excuse, and I know the listeners have this excuse too, is time. I am too busy. I look at these people who study for 2 hours a day and I think must be nice.
The time management myth. We convince ourselves that unless we have a big, uninterrupted block of free time, it's not worth doing.
Yeah, the all or nothing trap.
Exactly.
It's the tortoise and the hare story, right? I try to be the hare, I sprint, I study for 4 hours on a Sunday, and then my brain is just fried and I don't look at it again for 2 weeks.
And that is the worst possible way to learn a language. Neuroscientifically speaking, your brain needs repetition to move information from short-term memory to long-term memory.
Okay.
There's something called the forgetting curve, discovered by a psychologist named Ebbinghaus.
The forgetting curve.
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
It is. Basically, if you learn a new word today, you will forget about 80% of it within 24 hours unless you review it.
80%.
About that, yes.
Yeah.
So if you wait a whole week to study again, you are effectively starting from zero every single time.
That explains so much. That explains why I feel like I'm constantly relearning the same basic words over and over.
Exactly. You are filling a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom. The only way to keep the bucket full is to keep pouring, little by little, every single day.
So consistency beats intensity.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Every single study on memory confirms this.
So 15 minutes a day. Is that really better than 3 hours on a Sunday?
Infinitely better. 15 minutes keeps those neural pathways active. It signals to your brain, hey, this information is important because we use it every day.
But can you really learn anything in just 15 minutes? It feels like nothing. By the time I get settled, it's over.
It adds up. Think about all the dead time in your day. The time you spend waiting for the bus, the time you spend folding laundry, the 5 minutes you spend scrolling through social media before a meeting.
Guilty.
If you take just one of those little blocks and replace it with language exposure, listening to a podcast, doing a quick vocabulary review, you build a routine.
I love the idea of habit stacking. I read about this. You take a habit you already have, like drinking coffee in the morning,
Yes.
and you stack a new habit on top of it. I will not drink my coffee until I have done one lesson on my app.
That is the best way to do it. It removes the decision-making power. If you have to decide when to study, you will eventually decide, not now.
Yeah, later.
But if it's just part of your morning coffee ritual, it becomes automatic. It's just what you do.
Okay, so we have the routine. We're doing our 15 minutes. But eventually, we have to face the boss battle.
The boss battle.
The great silencer. Speaking to another human being.
This is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where the fear we talked about earlier really, truly paralyzes people.
It's so interesting. I have friends who can read English perfectly. They can watch movies without subtitles. But if you ask them a simple question like, how was your weekend? They freeze up. They turn into statues.
It is a performance anxiety. It's something called the spotlight effect.
Yeah.
We think everyone is analyzing our every word, judging our accent, secretly laughing at our mistakes.
But they aren't, are they? Really?
No. Think about your own experience. If a tourist comes up to you in your city and asks for directions in broken, heavily accented English, do you think, wow, what an idiot, his verb conjugation was all wrong?
No, never. I usually think, oh, cool, he's trying. I actually feel patient. I want to help him find his way.
Exactly. Most people are kind. Most people want to communicate. The judgment is almost entirely in your own head.
So we need to reframe the mistake. You mentioned earlier that mistakes are actually data.
Yes. In the tech world, they have this mantra, fail fast. In language learning, we should say, mistake often.
Mistake often.
A mistake is a teacher. If you say a word and someone looks confused, that's immediate valuable feedback. It tells you, okay, that pronunciation didn't work, let me try it differently. You cannot fix what you don't know is broken.
So silence is actually the enemy. If I stay silent, I make zero mistakes, but I also make zero progress.
Silence ensures you will never improve. Making a fool of yourself for a little while ensures you will eventually become fluent.
Wow.
You have to be willing to be the clumsy student for a while to become the master.
That requires a lot of humility, doesn't it? It's a character test.
It is. Learning language builds character. It forces you to be humble, it forces you to be a good listener, and it forces you to be resilient.
Let's talk about the mechanics of input and output, because there's a debate here. Some people say, speak from day one, and others say, no, just listen for 6 months. Where do we stand on that?
Well, the input hypothesis, which was championed by a linguist named Stephen Krashen, says that we acquire language primarily by understanding messages, by listening and reading. He calls it comprehensible input.
Comprehensible input.
So not just random noise.
Right. If I play you a podcast in Hungarian right now, and you know zero Hungarian, it's just noise, it goes in one ear and out the other, you won't learn anything. It needs to be input that is slightly above your current level. You understand the context, you understand most of the words, but there are a few new things in there that your brain has to work to figure out.
So for our listeners right now, listening to this deep dive,
This is hopefully ideal comprehensible input. We're speaking clearly, we're using context, but we're also discussing complex ideas. Their brains are working to bridge that small gap. But what about the click? I've heard people talk about this moment where suddenly, after weeks of confusion, the noise turns into meaning.
it's a magical moment. It really is. It's a phenomenon called latent learning.
Later learning.
You listen for weeks and feel like nothing is happening. You're just swimming in this soup of sound. But subconsciously, your brain is mapping the phones, the rhythm, the intonation. And then one day, the dam breaks.
Yeah.
You hear a sentence and you don't translate it in your head. You just
Yeah.
you just understand it.
That is the goal, to stop translating, because that's the slow part, right?
Yeah.
Hearing English, turning it into my native language in my head, thinking of an answer, turning it back into English, it's exhausting.
It's mentally draining. That's why you can get a headache after speaking a foreign language, friend.
Golly.
The whole goal of high-volume listening of input is to get your brain to process English as English, to build a direct connection.
So fill your ears. Podcasts, YouTube, movies, music.
And don't be afraid of subtitles, but try to use English subtitles if you can. Reading along while you're listening helps connect the sound to the spelling. It's a powerful combination.
Now let's flip it. Let's talk about output, speaking. You said earlier we need to fire the editor. But what if I literally have nobody to talk to?
Yeah.
I live in a small town. There are no native speakers around. What do I do? Just talk to my cat.
Yes. Talk to the cat, talk to the showerhead, talk to the traffic while you're driving.
You're serious. The solo strategy.
I am 100% serious. It sounds crazy, but it is highly effective. There's a technique called shadowing, but even simpler is just self-talk.
Okay, so what does that look like?
You just narrate your life out loud. Okay, I am opening the fridge now. I am looking for the milk. Oh no, we are out of milk. I need to go to the store.
Why does that help? It seems like it wouldn't matter because nobody is there to correct me if I'm wrong.
It helps for a crucial reason. Speaking is a physical act. We forget this. Your mouth has muscles. Your tongue has to learn a whole new choreography.
English sounds, like the TH sound or the specific R sound, might not exist in your native language. You need to train your mouth to move in that new way.
It's muscle memory, like practicing scales on a piano.
Exactly. You don't want the first time you try to pronounce a difficult word, like thoroughly, to be in a high-stakes business meeting.
No.
You want to have practiced it in the shower 50 times first.
That makes so much sense. Get all the stumbling and the awkwardness out of the way in private.
And it builds the neural pathway between the thought and the speech. You reduce that lag time, that hesitation.
I want to touch on vocabulary before we wrap up the strategy section. Because the old school way was, here is a list of 20 words regarding farm animals. Memorize them for the test on Friday.
The list method. The absolute fastest way to kill your love for a language.
And I would. I'd memorize them, I'd pass the test, and on Monday, I couldn't remember the word for cow because there was no context. Our brains are association machines. We remember things that are connected to other things. A random list of words has no hooks for your memory to grab onto. It's just floating data.
So how do we create those hooks?
You learn in context, always. Don't learn the word umbrella in isolation from a list. Learn the sentence, "It was raining so hard and I completely forgot my umbrella."
Ah, so you create a scene.
You visualize the rain. You feel the wet clothes. You connect the word to an image, a feeling, a story.
Stories stick. Lists just slide away.
Precisely. If you encounter a new word in a movie you love or in a podcast like this, you remember the moment. You remember the speaker's tone of voice. That emotion acts like glue for the memory.
So stop making flashcards of random words. Start consuming stories and sentences.
Yes, phrase mining is a great term for it. Learn chunks of language, not isolated bricks. You can't build a house with one brick at a time. You need sections.
This brings us to the bigger picture. We've talked about the struggle, the science, the fear, but we really need to remember why we're doing this. Because it is hard work, let's be honest. And if you don't have a strong why, you're going to quit during that dip.
That is the absolute truth. Motivation gets you started, habit keeps you going, but purpose is what stops you from quitting when it gets really, really tough.
And that purpose has to be more than just, I want a better score on a test.
Oh, it has to be human. It has to be personal. Language is the architecture of human connection.
The architecture of human connection, I like that.
When you learn English, you aren't just learning a code. You are unlocking access to billions of people. You're unlocking literature, science, movies, music, and friendships that you literally could not have experienced otherwise.
It changes you as a person, doesn't it? I feel like I'm a slightly different person when I speak a different language.
There's the theory for that. It's called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or linguistic relativity.
Okay.
And it suggests that the language we speak influences how we think and perceive the world.
Yeah.
And I believe that's true. When you learn a new language, you adopt a new lens for viewing reality. You gain empathy. You start to understand that your way of doing things isn't the only way.
It opens doors. It really does. And I think that's the reward you have to keep your eye on at the end of all the pain and confusion, the connection.
And that is why the enjoyment factor is non-negotiable. If you treat learning English like a chore, like scrubbing the toilet, you will find every excuse to stop. You have to pair it with things you genuinely love.
So if I love cooking, I should watch Gordon Ramsay yelling at people in English.
Exactly. If you love football, listen to the Premier League commentary in English. If you're into tech, watch reviews of the new iPhone. Let the topic be the hook that pulls you in. The English is just the vehicle.
That way you aren't studying, you're just consuming content you already like that just happens to be in English.
And suddenly you look up and you've spent an hour immersed in the language without checking your watch once. That's the dream state.
We are coming toward the end of our session, and I want to leave the listeners with a final thought on resilience. Because we can give them all the tactics in the world, shadowing, input, spaced repetition, but tomorrow morning, they might wake up feeling tired. They might have what I call a bad English day.
And those days will happen. They're guaranteed to happen. There will be days where your brain refuses to cooperate.
Yes.
Where you can't find the words you knew yesterday. Where you feel like you've actually regressed.
What do we do on those days? Just give up for the day.
No. On those days, you forgive yourself. You accept it as part of the natural cycle of learning. And you do the bare minimum.
The bare minimum.
You just do your 15 minutes, you listen to one song, you review 5 words, you keep the chain alive.
Don't break the chain.
Don't break the chain. Because progress is almost always invisible in the short term. It's like watching a plant grow. You can stare at it all day and nothing changes. But you come back a month later, and suddenly it has new leaves. The growth was happening all along. It was just too slow to see.
You just have to trust the process.
You have to trust that your brain is designed to do this. You have the hardware. All you need to provide is 3 things: time, exposure, and the courage to make mistakes.
Time, exposure, courage. That's a powerful triad.
It is. If you provide those 3 things and you don't quit, you will learn. It is inevitable.
I love that. It is inevitable. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. And for everyone listening, just remember, you just spent the last hour practicing English. You did it.
You turn the input into understanding. That is a victory right there.
If you understood most of this conversation, give yourself a pat on the back. You are doing so much better than you think. And if you struggled,
that's okay too.
Listen again, slow it down, use the transcript if you have it. The fog will eventually lift.
Keep going. The view from the top of that mountain is absolutely worth the climb.
Before we sign off, we have a small favor to ask. We're trying to build this community of learners, and the YouTube algorithm needs to know that this content is valuable to you. So if you learned something today, please take 1 second and hit that like button.
And make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive. We have some great topics coming up that will help you not just with English, but with life in general.
And let us know in the comments, what is your biggest fear in learning English? Is it the grammar, the speaking, the listening? We really want to hear your stories.
We read all the comments, and we'd love to help out.
Thank you so much for lending us your ears today. Go do your 15 minutes tomorrow.
Consistency over intensity.
We'll see you in the next deep dive. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep at it.